Sometimes the smallest promise costs more than a person can afford, and sometimes a child's birthday wish changes everything. Emily Carter stared at the worn $10 bill lying on her kitchen counter as the early morning sunlight slipped through the blinds of her small apartment in Columbus, Ohio. She picked it up, smoothed the creases with her fingers, and let out a quiet breath. $10. That was all she had left until payday. Rent had been paid 3 days late. The electric bill was sitting unopened beside the refrigerator. Her aging sedan needed gas. Yet none of those worries felt as heavy as the date displayed on the microwave clock. Today was June 12th. Today was Noah's birthday. In the next room, 8-year-old Noah Carter was already awake. Emily could hear the faint sound of him humming to himself as he got dressed for school. Despite everything, he always woke up smiling. That smile was one of the few things keeping her going. She quickly opened her wallet again, hoping money might somehow appear where there was none. A couple of quarters. A dollar bill. The $10 she had already counted 3 times. Nothing more. Her stomach tightened. She had promised Noah a birthday cake. Not a big one. Not anything fancy. Just a cake with candles so he could make a wish like every other kid. Last year she had managed to save enough for a small celebration. This year had been harder. Extra shifts had disappeared. Expenses had piled up. Somehow, every dollar had found somewhere else to go. "Mom," Noah called from the hallway. Emily forced a smile before turning around. "Happy birthday, buddy." Noah grinned and ran into the kitchen. "Thanks, Mom." His blonde hair was still messy from sleep. "Do you think Grandma will call tonight?" "I'm sure she will." "And do you think we can have cake after dinner?" The question landed directly in her heart. Emily swallowed. "Of course," she said softly. "We'll have cake." Noah's eyes lit up. "Awesome." He grabbed a piece of toast and hurried toward the door. "This is going to be the best birthday ever." Emily watched him leave and felt guilt settle heavily in her chest. Children trusted promises so easily. They believed every word spoken by the people they loved. She wanted desperately to protect that belief. After Noah left for school, Emily sat alone at the kitchen table. The apartment felt unusually quiet. She looked at the $10 bill again. Maybe she could find a small bakery special. Maybe she could make something work. Maybe somehow $10 would be enough. Then she noticed a folded piece of notebook paper sticking out from beneath Noah's backpack. Curious, she picked it up. Across the top, written in careful handwriting, were the words, "Birthday Wish List." Emily smiled, but she stopped before unfolding it. Whatever Noah had written was meant for tonight. His private wish. She placed the paper back exactly where she found it and whispered a silent prayer that she wouldn't disappoint him. What Emily didn't know was that before this birthday was over, that hidden wish would set a chain of events into motion that neither of them could possibly imagine. By noon, Emily had checked the prices of birthday cakes on 3 different bakery websites, and every search ended the same way. Too expensive. Even the smallest cakes cost more than she had. Sitting in the break room during her lunch break, she stared at her phone and quietly did the math again. $10 could buy a gallon of milk, a loaf of bread, and maybe enough gas to get through the next couple of days. Spending it on a cake was irresponsible. Not buying a cake felt impossible. She rubbed her forehead and looked around the room. A few coworkers laughed over lunch at a nearby table. Someone was talking about an upcoming family vacation to Florida. Another person mentioned ordering a custom cake for their daughter that cost over $100. Emily forced herself not to listen. Their lives seemed to belong to a completely different world. A few minutes later, her phone buzzed. A text message from Noah appeared on the screen. Attached was a picture of a handmade birthday crown his teacher had given him. Beneath the photo, he had typed, "Everyone sang happy birthday to me today. I cannot wait for tonight." Emily smiled despite the knot growing in her chest. She zoomed in on the picture. Noah stood proudly. In his classroom, smiling from ear to ear. Around him were colorful decorations and classmates holding small paper cards. For a moment, she wondered if that would be enough. Maybe children did not need big celebrations. Maybe being loved was enough. But then she remembered the excitement in his voice that morning when he talked about cake. It was never really about dessert. It was about feeling special, feeling remembered, feeling like his birthday mattered. After work ended, Emily picked Noah up from school. The moment he climbed into the car, he seemed to be glowing with excitement. "Mom, guess what?" he said. "What?" Mrs. Peterson asked everyone what they wished for on their birthday. Emily smiled. "And what did you say?" Noah grinned mischievously. "I cannot tell you. If I tell you, it will not come true. Emily laughed softly. Fair enough. During the drive home, Noah talked nonstop about school, friends, and the birthday cards he had received. Every few minutes, he mentioned tonight. 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 Each mention made Emily more anxious. As they pulled into the apartment parking lot, Noah suddenly became quiet. Mom. Yes. You work really hard. Do you know that? Emily looked at him, surprised. Well, thank you. Noah shrugged. I just noticed things. His words lingered in her mind long after they entered the apartment. While Noah finished his homework at the kitchen table, Emily stepped into her bedroom and opened her wallet one more time. $10. Still the same. She stared at it for several seconds before finally making a decision. She would go to the bakery. Maybe there would be a discount. Maybe there would be a small cake hidden somewhere she had not seen online. Maybe she would get lucky. Looking out the window as the afternoon sun began to sink lower in the sky, Emily grabbed her purse and car keys. She had no idea that someone else, miles away, was about to notice a small detail that would soon connect their lives in a way neither of them expected. The bakery sat on the corner of a busy shopping plaza, its front windows glowing with warm light as families came and went carrying colorful boxes tied with ribbon. Emily parked near the entrance and sat in the car for a moment, gathering her courage. Noah was humming softly beside her, looking out the window with the kind of excitement only a child could have on his birthday. Ready? She asked. Definitely, he said with a grin. Together they walked inside. The sweet smell of vanilla, chocolate, and fresh bread filled the air. Display cases stretched across the room, packed with cakes decorated in bright frosting and colorful designs. Noah's eyes widened immediately. Emily wished she could freeze that expression forever. They slowly moved closer to the glass. A bakery employee greeted them with a smile and pointed towards several birthday cakes available for immediate purchase. Emily checked the price tags one by one. $32, $38, $45. Her heart sank with every number. She forced herself to keep smiling so Noah would not notice. These are cool, Noah said, pointing at a chocolate cake with blue icing. They really are, Emily replied. She looked farther down the display, hoping to find something smaller. Then she spotted the simplest cake in the case. White frosting. No decorations except a small border around the edge. $24.99. It was still more than double what she had. Emily quietly reached into her purse and counted her money again, even though she already knew the result. $10. Not a penny more. For a few seconds, she simply stood there staring at the cake. The employee approached. Would you like me to box that one up for you? Emily opened her mouth, but no words came out. Actually, she said carefully, do you happen to have anything smaller? The employee hesitated. That is the smallest birthday cake we have today. Emily nodded. I understand. Beside her, Noah remained cheerful. He was too busy admiring the decorations to realize what was happening. Emily felt a mixture of relief and heartbreak. She never wanted him to see her struggle. Maybe we should look around a little more, she suggested. Noah smiled. Okay. They moved toward another section of the bakery, but Emily already knew there would be no miracle waiting there. As she glanced back toward the display case, she noticed a man standing near the coffee counter on the opposite side of the store. He appeared to be in his late 30s, dressed simply in a dark jacket and jeans. Nothing about him stood out except the fact that he seemed to be watching their interaction. When their eyes briefly met, he looked away and took a sip of his coffee. Emily thought nothing of it. She had too many other worries on her mind. After another few minutes, she gently placed a hand on Noah's shoulder. Come on, buddy. Let us head home. Noah looked surprised. No cake. Emily forced a smile. Not today. We will figure something out. Noah studied her face for a moment, then nodded. Okay, Mom. He did not complain. He did not pout. Somehow that made her feel even worse. As they turned toward the door, neither of them noticed the man near the coffee counter pull out his phone and make a call that would change the course of their evening before the sun went down. The drive home felt much quieter than the drive to the bakery. Noah sat in the passenger seat looking out the window as the evening sun painted long shadows across the streets of Columbus. Emily kept both hands on the steering wheel, replaying the scene in her mind. She hated the feeling of coming up short. More than that, she hated knowing Noah had noticed. He had not complained once, but she knew him well enough to recognize disappointment when he tried to hide it. When they reached the apartment, Noah climbed out of the car and forced a smile. "Can I work on something in my room before dinner?" he asked. "Of course," Emily replied. "I will call you when it is ready." Noah disappeared down the hallway, leaving Emily alone in the kitchen. She opened the refrigerator and stared at its contents. A few eggs, some milk, leftover pasta, nothing that could magically become a birthday cake. For a moment, she considered attempting one from scratch, but she did not have enough ingredients. She leaned against the counter and closed her eyes. Across town, the man from the bakery sat inside a black SUV parked outside a downtown office building. His name was Alexander Reed. To most people, the name meant little, unless they followed business news. To investors, entrepreneurs, and reporters, it belonged to one of the most successful technology executives in the country. Yet tonight, his attention was not on company reports or meetings. It was on a little boy who had quietly accepted disappointment without a single complaint. Alexander glanced at a photo that had just appeared on his phone screen. It showed a simple handwritten note from a school project that one of his assistants had managed to locate through a community education fundraiser page. The note belonged to Noah Carter. Alexander read the visible lines twice. A thoughtful expression crossed his face. "Interesting," he murmured. Back at the apartment, Emily prepared a simple dinner and tried to keep the mood cheerful. Noah joined her at the table carrying folded sheets of paper. "What are those?" Emily asked. "Just something I am working on." He quickly tucked them away before she could see them. During dinner, Noah talked about school again, making an effort to smile. Emily appreciated that more than he realized. Afterward, she washed the dishes while Noah disappeared into his room. The apartment settled into its usual evening quiet. Around 7:30, a knock suddenly echoed through the apartment. Emily frowned. She was not expecting anyone. She walked to the door and opened it. Standing outside was a delivery driver holding a large white bakery box tied with a blue ribbon. "Delivery for Emily Carter," the driver said. Emily blinked in confusion. There must be some mistake. The driver checked his phone. "Apartment 3B? Yes. Then it is definitely for you." Emily stared at the box. "Who sent it?" The driver smiled apologetically. "I am afraid I do not have that information." Before she could ask another question, Noah appeared behind her. His eyes immediately locked onto the bakery box. Neither of them knew who had sent it. Neither of them understood why. But as Emily carefully accepted the mysterious delivery, she realized this birthday night was no longer unfolding the way she expected. For several seconds, neither Emily nor Noah moved. The white bakery box sat on the kitchen table like something impossible. Finally, Noah looked up at his mother. "Can we open it?" Emily laughed nervously. "I think we probably should." Carefully, she untied the blue ribbon and lifted the lid. Noah gasped. Inside was a beautiful chocolate birthday cake decorated with blue frosting and silver stars. It was the same cake Noah had admired in the bakery display earlier that afternoon. Emily immediately recognized it. Her hand moved to her mouth. "No way," she whispered. Noah stared at the cake as if it had appeared by magic. "Mom, that is the one." "I know. It is exactly the one." Emily felt a wave of emotion she could barely contain. She looked inside the box for a card, a receipt, anything that might explain where it came from. There was only a small envelope tucked beneath the ribbon. She opened it carefully. Inside was a simple note written in neat handwriting. It contained only 6 words. "Every child deserves a birthday wish." No name, no signature, nothing else. Noah smiled so widely that Emily thought her heart might burst. "See? I told you this would be the best birthday ever." She laughed through tears and hugged him tightly. For the next hour, the apartment felt completely different. The worries that had followed her all day seemed to fade into the background. Noah placed candles on the cake, while Emily searched for matches. Soon the small kitchen glowed with warm candlelight. "Ready?" she asked. Noah nodded. Together they sang Happy Birthday. Noah closed his eyes before blowing out the candles. Emily noticed he held his wish a little longer than most children would, as though he wanted to make certain it reached wherever wishes were supposed to go. Afterward, they shared cake and laughed together. It was simple. It was ordinary. Yet somehow it felt perfect. Later that evening, after Noah had gone to bed, Emily sat alone at the kitchen table looking at the mysterious note again. The question would not leave her mind. Who had sent the cake? She replayed the entire day. None of her friends knew about the bakery. Her co-workers did not know her financial situation. Even her mother lived 2 states away. Nothing made sense. Across town, Alexander Reed stood inside the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office overlooking the city lights. A tablet rested in his hands. One of his assistants had just confirmed that the delivery had arrived successfully. Alexander looked at a photograph displayed on the screen. It showed Noah standing proudly in his classroom wearing the handmade birthday crown. Beside the image was a scanned copy of the folded birthday wish list Noah had written earlier that day. Alexander read one particular line again. The sentence was simple, but it had stopped him cold when he first saw it. Most children wished for toys, bicycles, or video games. Noah had wished for something entirely different. Alexander slowly set the tablet down and stared out across the city. Interesting, he said quietly. Then he made another decision. Before this birthday week was over, he intended to do something else for the little boy. Something far bigger than a cake. The next morning, Emily woke up feeling lighter than she had in weeks. The mystery of the cake still lingered in her mind, but for the first time in a long while, she had gone to sleep knowing Noah had ended his birthday smiling. As she entered the kitchen, she found him already awake, sitting at the table with a bowl of cereal and a thoughtful expression on his face. "Good morning, birthday boy," she said. Noah smiled. "I am 8 years old and 1 day now." Emily laughed. "That is a very important milestone." Before she could pour herself a cup of coffee, another knock sounded at the apartment door. Both of them looked up in surprise. "Are you expecting someone?" Noah asked. "Not at all." Emily walked to the door and opened it. A delivery driver stood outside, holding a medium-sized package wrapped in plain brown paper. "Delivery for Noah Carter," he said. Noah immediately jumped from his chair and hurried over. Emily signed for the package and brought it inside. There was no return address, no company logo, no note attached, just Noah's name written neatly across the label. "Can I open it?" he asked excitedly. "I think that is the point," Emily replied. Noah carefully peeled away the wrapping paper. Inside was a brand new telescope, compact but beautifully made, along with a beginner's guide to astronomy. Noah stared at it in disbelief. "Mom," he whispered, "this is amazing." Emily looked just as confused as he was. "Do you know anyone who would send this?" Noah slowly shook his head. Then his eyes widened. "Wait." He ran toward his room and returned carrying a notebook. He flipped through several pages before stopping. Emily glanced down and saw sketches of stars, planets, and constellations covering the paper. "You never showed me this," she said. Noah shrugged. "I like drawing space stuff." Then he pointed to one page. "I always wanted a telescope." Emily felt a chill run through her arms. Whoever had sent the gift somehow knew exactly what Noah loved. That evening, after finishing homework, Noah carried the telescope to the apartment courtyard. The sky was clear enough to reveal a handful of bright stars. Emily watched him carefully adjust the lens while excitement lit up his face. For nearly an hour, he forgot everything else. He simply stared upward in wonder. Across the city, Alexander Reed sat in the back seat of his car while reading a report prepared by one of his staff members. It contained information about Emily's work history, volunteer records, and community involvement stretching back nearly a decade. Most people would have ignored such details. Alexander did not. As he turned another page, something caught his attention. A date, a location, a brief description of an incident from years earlier. He sat up straighter. Then he read it again, this time much more slowly. A memory he had not thought about in years suddenly returned with startling clarity. "It cannot be," he murmured. Yet the more he reviewed the information, the more certain he became. Emily Carter was not a stranger. She had crossed paths with his family before. And if the records were correct, she had done something years ago that changed the course of his life forever without ever knowing it. Over the next few days, the mystery only deepened. Emily tried to focus on work, bills, and daily responsibilities, but her mind kept returning to the same question. Who was helping them and why? Every possibility, she considered, fell apart under scrutiny. Meanwhile, Noah seemed happier than she had seen him in months. Each evening, he carried his telescope outside and carefully studied the night sky. He filled page after page in his notebook with sketches of stars and planets, speaking excitedly about things he wanted to learn. Seeing him smile made every unanswered question feel slightly less important. Then, late Friday afternoon, another unexpected event occurred. Emily received an email at work inviting her to attend a community recognition reception being hosted by the Reed Foundation, one of the largest charitable organizations in the state. At first, she assumed it had been sent by mistake. She almost deleted it. Then she noticed a line mentioning former volunteers who had participated in neighborhood outreach programs over the past decade. Emily vaguely remembered helping at several community events years earlier. Curious, she accepted the invitation. The following evening, she and Noah arrived at an elegant downtown conference center filled with local leaders, volunteers, and business professionals. Emily immediately felt out of place. Most guests wore expensive clothing and moved comfortably through conversations about investments, corporate partnerships, and development projects. She adjusted the sleeve of her simple dress and tried not to look nervous. Noah, however, seemed fascinated by everything. As they explored the reception hall, he stopped repeatedly to examine displays highlighting educational programs and science scholarships. One display featured photographs of students using telescopes at an astronomy camp. Noah stared at it for nearly a full minute. "That would be amazing," he whispered. Emily smiled. "Maybe someday." Before they could continue, a voice behind them spoke. "I think someday might arrive sooner than you expect." Emily turned. Standing a few feet away was the same man she had briefly noticed in the bakery days earlier. He looked familiar immediately, though she could not place why. The man smiled politely. "Good evening." Noah looked up. "I know you." The man seemed surprised. "You do?" Noah nodded. "You were at the bakery." For a moment, the man's expression softened. "You have a very good memory." Emily studied him carefully. "Have we met before?" The man extended his hand. "Alexander Reed." The name hit her instantly. Even someone who rarely followed business news recognized it. Alexander Reed was one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the country. Emily blinked in disbelief. "You own the foundation?" "Among other things," he said with a small smile. Noah looked between them. "Wait, you are the guy from the bakery." Alexander laughed quietly. "Guilty." Emily felt 100 questions rush into her mind at once. Before she could ask any of them, Alexander glanced at her with an expression that was unexpectedly personal. "Miss Carter," he said, "I have been hoping to meet you properly because there is something important you deserve to know. The truth is, our families crossed paths years ago, and I have spent a very long time trying to find the woman who helped my mother when nobody else would." Emily stared at Alexander Reed, trying to process what she had just heard. Around them, conversations continued throughout the reception hall, but for a moment everything seemed distant. "Your mother?" she asked quietly. Alexander nodded. "About 9 years ago." He glanced toward a nearby seating area. "Would you mind sitting down for a few minutes?" Emily agreed, and the three of them moved to a quieter corner of the room. Noah sat beside his mother, listening carefully. Alexander took a slow breath. 9 years ago, my mother was going through one of the hardest periods of her life. My father had recently passed away, and she was struggling emotionally. One afternoon, she attended a community event at a neighborhood center. Emily listened politely, still unable to see where the story was going. Then Alexander smiled faintly. "A sudden storm hit that day. Most people rushed home as quickly as possible. But my mother stayed behind because she was overwhelmed and upset. According to her, almost everyone left without noticing." Emily's expression slowly changed. A distant memory surfaced. "Wait," she said. "There was a woman sitting alone near the entrance." Alexander nodded. Exactly. The memory became clearer. Emily had been volunteering at the event. She remembered seeing an older woman who seemed lost and discouraged. She had offered her coffee, sat with her for a while, and listened as the woman shared stories about her family. At the time, it felt like a simple act of kindness. "That was your mother?" Emily asked. "It was." Alexander smiled. "When she came home that evening, she told me about a young volunteer who spent nearly an hour talking with her when she felt completely invisible. She never forgot it." Emily shook her head. "I barely remember doing anything important." "That is the point," Alexander replied. "You did not think it was important, but it mattered to her." Noah looked back and forth between them. "So you were looking for my mom?" Alexander nodded. "For years." He explained that his mother had passed away peacefully several years later. Before she died, she often spoke about the stranger who had shown her kindness on a difficult day. Unfortunately, she only knew the volunteer's first name. It took Alexander years to connect the details. Then, after seeing Emily and Noah at the bakery, something felt familiar. His team eventually confirmed the connection through old volunteer records. Emily sat speechless. The entire explanation felt unbelievable. "The cake," she said. "And the telescope." Alexander smiled. "Those were for me." Noah's eyes widened. "Really? Really? Why?" Alexander looked directly at him. "Because kindness deserves to come full circle." Noah thought about that answer for several seconds. Then he smiled. Alexander reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. "There is one more thing." He handed it to Emily. She unfolded it carefully. Her eyes moved across the page. Then she froze. It was an offer for a full-time position with the Reed Foundation, including a salary significantly higher than what she currently earned, flexible family hours, and educational benefits. Emily looked up in shock. "Alexander, I cannot accept this." "Why not?" he asked gently. "Because I did not help your mother expecting anything in return." Alexander's expression softened. "I know. That is exactly why you are the kind of person we want working with us." Emily looked down at the job offer again, hardly believing the numbers on the page. For years she had worked long hours just to stay ahead of bills that never seemed to stop coming. Now, sitting across from Alexander Reed, she was being offered an opportunity that could completely change her future. Yet what affected her most was not the salary or benefits. It was the reason behind it. Someone had remembered a simple act of kindness that she herself had nearly forgotten. Noah tugged gently on her sleeve. "Mom," he whispered, "you are smiling." Emily laughed softly. She had not even realized it. Alexander noticed as well. "You do not have to decide tonight," he said. "Take your time." Emily nodded, but deep down she already knew her answer. Over the following weeks, life began to change in ways she had never expected. Emily accepted the position with the Reed Foundation and quickly discovered that the work felt meaningful. She helped coordinate community programs, support families in need, and organize educational opportunities for children throughout the city. For the first time in years, she was not constantly worried about whether she could cover next month's expenses. More importantly, she was able to spend more time with Noah. The flexible schedule allowed her to attend school events, help with projects, and share dinners without rushing from one responsibility to the next. Noah noticed the difference immediately. One evening, several months later, they sat together on a blanket in a nearby park. The telescope rested beside them as stars slowly appeared overhead. "Mom," Noah asked. "Yes. Remember my birthday?" Emily smiled. "I do not think I could ever forget it." Noah looked up at the sky. "Can I tell you something?" "Of course." He hesitated for a moment. "The wish I made when I blew out the candles was not for a telescope." Emily turned toward him. "It was not." He shook his head. "I wish for you to be happy." Emily felt her eyes fill with tears. "You did. You always took care of me," Noah said quietly. "I just wanted something good to happen for you." For a moment, Emily could not speak. She wrapped her arms around her son and held him close. Across the park, Alexander happened to be attending a nearby community event hosted by the foundation. As he walked past, he noticed the two of them sitting together beneath the evening sky. He smiled, but chose not to interrupt. Some moments were too important to disturb. As he continued walking, he thought about his mother and the lesson she had spent years teaching him. Kindness was never truly lost. Sometimes it traveled in circles. Sometimes it took years to return. But when it did, it often arrived in ways no one could predict. Above them, countless stars filled the night sky. Noah adjusted the telescope and pointed excitedly toward a bright constellation. Emily laughed as he launched into an enthusiastic explanation of everything he had learned. Listening to him, she realized something important. The greatest gift she had received was not the job, the cake, or even the unexpected opportunities. It was hope. Hope that difficult seasons could end. Hope that good people still existed. Hope that small acts of compassion mattered more than most people realized. And as mother and son sat beneath the stars together, both smiling, Noah finally got the birthday wish he had carried quietly in his heart all along.